I'm very excited, though, to get back into our series on Song of Solomon. We're going to be going through that through the month of April, so we're almost done. Everybody say halfway there. Yeah, we actually are through the series, and so I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about. Does anybody know what we're talking about tonight? How did you guys know? I'm joking. I know. Communication. We've been talking about attraction and dating and all that stuff. It's been really, really, really awesome. And if I could have my wife come and join me. I had this idea in worship. I had this idea as I was being in worship. I was like, you know what? Communication would be really cool if we both talked about it. And so Macy's going to come up and preach. Come on, can you do that?
I think it's really ironic. Ooh, this microphone's real hot. If I can get it down just a hair, that'd be great. Thanks, Keegan. I think it's real ironic that on a night like communication, that you don't communicate with me, that you'd like me to speak with you. That's great.
What are you talking about?
Well, you said you had this idea during worship.
Yeah.
So
when you get married, you have like the twin telepathy, and you're supposed to just... I communicated with you.
No, he didn't.
Can you still do it?
Maybe.
All right, let's just try it and see what happens. Okay, cool. So we've been talking about communication, right? What's the most important part of a relationship? Whether it's a friendship, whether it's a relationship, anything that happens, communication is important, right? I think that we have to know this, right? Have you guys, I used to have this video. I didn't grab it tonight. Do you guys remember, it was the NBA Finals, I think. Isaiah can check me on it because he knows everything sports. I think it was like 2014. There was a clip. You have to go look it up. It's LeBron James and J.R. Smith in the finals, the NBA championship, right? And the shot clock is running out. And J.R. Smith has the ball. And he's dribbling and dribbling and dribbling. And he cannot look at the shot clock. For whatever reason, he's like incapable. And LeBron is going, hey! Hey! Like just yelling. And finally, the shot clock goes all the way to zero. He shoots up just this terrible shot. And I don't know if you've ever seen the meme of LeBron James when he's like this. Has ever seen that clip when he's like, okay, whatever. Look it up because it's hilarious, okay? I forgot to pull that video. Getting into the message, though, we're going to be in Song of Solomon chapter 2. We are going to have it on the screens. But as you guys are turning there, did you guys know there was a study done in 1989, right? Long time ago. Anybody? Yeah? Good, thank you. I appreciate that. Because people would like to say 1996 is a long time, and it's not. No, stop. Don't say that. So check this out. So there was a study done in 1989 before the technology boom, right? With all the televisions and all that stuff, because that was a brand new concept in the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, all that kind of stuff. Like, it just became progressively cooler, right? Anybody seen a TV from 1990? Yeah, okay, yeah. It's amazing that we've gotten to where we got. Listen to this. This is what they found. This is what they found. In 1989, a married couple, married man and a married woman together, spent an average of 27.5 minutes per week talking to each other. Get this. As technology became more and more cool, 46 hours a week of television. 30 minutes a week of talking and communicating because you're at jobs, and then you come home, and then you watch TV for 7 hours, and then you go to bed, and then you wake up, and you might have a conversation for a couple of minutes on your way out the door. Communication can make and break a relationship, right? I think it's the very thing that can actually starve it to death. Communication is important. Everybody say communication is important. All right, Macy, give them the background.
Okay.
By the way, I totally
We did
told her.
communicate.
We communicated. I'm
yeah.
good at this.
No.
Nobody come at me after service, okay? Anyway.
Okay, so at this point, this is a really great spot. We're about halfway through. And this is a really great spot to kind of like review. And so at this point, we've learned that the couple is attracted to one another. And they're both attracted to one another's appearance, but also their godly character. And I think this is a really cool spot for us to ask the question, how are we, whether you're in a relationship or not, how are we allowing the Holy Spirit to continue to develop the character of Christ in us? So you don't want to just develop your character because like, I want to be really great for that person. You are just as worth that own development for yourself and for your own being as for that person. So don't go, oh, well, I don't care. I don't want to date anyone. Who cares? Pursue the development of that character through the Holy Spirit now because it's good for you, period. We've seen the Shulamite woman self-esteem go from, don't look at me, I'm swarthy. Really? Swarthy? Swarthy. To, come on, how many guys, like, the language of Song of Solomon is just like, what? Right? Like, swarthy. Like, I think I'm going to have to go Google that. What does that even mean? To, it went from I'm swarthy to I'm a rose of Sharon, a lily of the valley. I'm unique. I'm valuable. I'm a one of a kind. She was feeling pretty good about herself. We've seen in their relationship as they spent time together out in the open, doing things together, then coming to the king's table. You might remember the woman said a few weeks ago, he brought me to his banquet house, and his banner over me was love. It wasn't a harshness. It wasn't an anger. It wasn't a manipulative, like, if you don't do this, I'm not going to love you. It was love. And so that's where we're at.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, when you think about what God himself has shown us, right? The thing that Jesus has given us, right? We're about to celebrate it with Easter. The banner that he puts over her in this relationship is love. Do you guys know that the banner that Jesus puts us over is love, right? It's under Jesus' banner that we get to experience that. Not condemnation or finger pointing. We get to experience salvation. Hey, guys in the back, are we paying attention? We good? Do we need to drop the AirPods? Okay, cool. So it's not separation, but it's restoration. He has done everything necessary for us to have a relationship with God the Father. Everything. It's been amazing. You see, there's an excitement in this relationship that we're reading about. They're gearing up now for their wedding day. Everybody say, "Aw, snap."
Aw, snap.
Who's excited for their wedding day? Come on. Guys can be excited too. Let's be real, all right? And never let your wife tell you can't walk out to Avengers, because you totally can, okay? Thank you for letting me do that. We walked out of our wedding ceremony to Avengers, the Avengers theme. I don't know if you guys remember. Come on now. So we left off with this man who is likely traveling to see his bride-to-be and inviting her to come away with him, right? All of it sounds so lovely and so positive, right? The winter has passed, the rain is gone, the flowers are coming. Who's excited for spring? Who got slapped in the face when winter 2 came back? You're like, boom, the sequel. Hope you like bitter cold. It's like ridiculous. We drove home a couple nights ago. It was snowing. I was like, this is dumb. It's April. The time for singing has come. The turtle dove can be heard through the land. The figs are ripe. The vines are in blossom. Everything is good, right? Do you guys remember verse 14? Macy, go ahead.
All right. So it says, my dove in the clefts of the rock, in the hiding places on the mountainside, show me your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet and your face is lovely. And the section of this that we really want to hit home with you guys is this idea of having a desire to listen. The man here makes a shocking request in verse 14 because he says, I'd like to hear your voice. Remember, this is the man talking to the woman, not vice versa. I'd like to hear you speak to me. I'd like to hear what you're thinking. I'd like to hear what you say. I'd like you to do some of the talking. Now, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a girl thing. Maybe we feel like we're just the talkers. But how often do we feel like the men are actually asking us questions? That's why we're talkative, right? We feel like we have to, like, keep the conversation going. Because what happens when you ask a guy how his day was?
It's good.
Doesn't that drive you nuts as a girl? You're like, but what happened? Ah! And so then we start just going, and well, I did this day, and this is what happened, and so-and-so said this, and we just go on and on and on. Guys, can I give you a little hint from a girl? What means a lot to us? We love when you ask us questions. When you, We like when you say, hey, how was your day? Oh my gosh, so-and-so did that. I am so sorry. Like, what happened? Like, why do you think they did that? Or, oh, I remembered you had a test. How did your test go? Right, guys, ask your significant other or even your friends what's going on in their life. There's this idea out there, and I know it's pretty prevalent, is there's this idea, men, there's a mantle on your life to lead, right? And I want to clarify something here, because at this point in the conversation, it could very easily get swung the other way, where you're like, well, if I'm supposed to lead, then it's all got to be about what I want to talk about, right? Like, it's got to be, well, I don't know what you're going to talk about, so I'm just going to talk about what I know about, and if you can't keep up, like, I'm just going to keep talking. And we want to make it clear, you're called to lead her into purity. You're called to lead her in protecting her heart. You're called to lead her into making good decisions. But remember this, it is not your job to make decisions for her, and she does not have to submit to you till the day there is a diamond ring on her finger. And even then, that doesn't mean you get to tell her just what to do. Okay? I'm an opinionated person, right? I'm an opinionated person. If you know me, I have an opinion. And for a really long time, my parents, and I love them, were like, Macy, you're going to scare the guys away with your opinions. And I was like, so what? I don't care. If he can't handle me, then he's not worth it. Do you want to know the first thing he told my parents that he loved? She's spunky, she's fiery, and I love it. So, find a man who's going to love you for your opinions. You have a mind of your own, and you should be able to speak it. Men, give her the room to speak. That doesn't mean she rolls over you, but give her the room to speak. Ask her thoughts on things. I know it sounds weird, right? Like sports. What do you think of sports? Or what do you think about this game? And she might go, I don't know. All right, that's not a good topic to ask about. But you might actually find that she knows something else. I remember Josh and I would spend hours on the phone talking about current events. And I know that's like really boring, but I got to know a lot about Josh, talking about what he thought about things and him asking questions in return and engaging in conversations about those things. On a funny note, Isaiah, can you throw that picture up there? Yes, okay. So this is an example of what not to do.
This is a must-have for all of you ladies. You need to go out and get a copy of this. Guys, you need to read this so that you can know this is how your woman should
No.
okay?
No.
Wait,
so,
no?
No. This is
tell them about it.
Okay, so this is funny. My mom has this book as a joke. There's a good husband guide, and there's a good wife guide, and they're literally article clippings out of like magazines, Good Housekeeping magazines in like the 40s and 50s. And when I was going through the notes for this, thinking about this thing of listening, I'm not going to show the page, but there's a page and an article in there, and the headline reads, "Women, make sure your man feels like you're interested in what he has to say, but don't have an opinion of your own." And if you know any of myself or my family or the women in my family, we all go, what? No. That is not how this happens. No. Have an opinion. Share your thoughts. Men, ask them what they think about things. Hear the words, your voice is sweet. Girls, you have to know that you have the power to speak your mind, and don't let a guy make you feel like you can't because you don't have something meaningful to say. Find a guy that will value what you have to say, share from your heart, and allow him to see your feelings. It's a nice little balance. I'd like to hear from you. It's not all about one or the other, but ask each other things. Have conversations. It can actually lead to getting to know one another. You might think, oh, we're just talking about video games or, I don't know, the weather. But you'll actually find stuff out about one another that you might not have otherwise learned. So as we get into verse 15, though, we go to a different side of conversations.
Let's check this out. And make sure your phone is turned off.
Sorry.
It's all about communication. I'm joking. Check this out. Song of Solomon, chapter 2, verse 15. This is what it says. It says, catch for us the foxes. Everybody say, I'm going to catch a fox. Nice, awesome. Now you might be thinking, well, foxes aren't that threatening, but you have to catch the foxes. Because, yeah, I mean, like, who has a fear of foxes in your life? Or what about a bear? Okay. Yeah, we got fear of the bears. Foxes are like, dude, I can grab a shotgun real quick. I can take care of a fox pretty easy, right? Who thinks that? Come on, let's be real. Very easy. Shh. Check this out, though. Check this out. Hey. In biblical times, you see, there was actually a big deal about foxes because they would go in and start eating all of the fruit that had bloomed. All the grapes, and they would destroy all the fruit before it even had the chance to be matured and to be harvested. So if foxes were allowed to run rampant in a vineyard, they would basically destroy it, and they would just move on to the next one looking for more food. So this woman was a caretaker of a vineyard. We're probably not reading a real reference to a real vineyard, okay? What he's saying is he's using a metaphor and an analogy for this, and he's basically saying, hey, we need to protect our relationship. Guys, like what Macy said, you have to protect the relationship. Girls, you have to do your part as well to keep protection on the relationship. You see, a lot of commentators, people who've studied this and tried to understand its meaning and stuff, they actually don't really know what to do with this verse. But I'd like to suggest to you that what he's saying is, hey, I would like to spend time with you. I really like you, and I want to get rid of the things that might ruin our relationship. I want to get rid of the things that are destroying our communication. I'd like to talk to you about the things that will be unhelpful to us and concentrate on the things that are helpful, to get rid of the foxes. I think we sometimes have to have some tough conversations, though, don't we, Mace?
Listening. So sometimes we have to have these tough conversations, and I want to make a point here that these tough conversations are not, well, we're going to date, so you should just know everything about me. These tough conversations come out of a spot of having real friendship. Can I tell you that when you start dating someone, your friendship doesn't go away. Actually, your friendship continues to grow. I can honestly tell you that Josh is my best friend. He knows me better than anyone else. He can almost read my mind. He can aggravate me like nobody else.
Not at all. What could I possibly, you guys know me. What could I possibly do to aggravate?
But I'm sure I also aggravate him. But your friend, it comes out of a deep-rooted relationship. It's not an emotion. There's an emotional connection, but it's not an emotional response. You don't have to go to that spot where you're telling someone about what you've done in the past because of an emotional thing. It comes out of a security that comes from deep and real friendship. So don't think, oh, I'm dating this person, because this is what happens. We start dating people, and all of a sudden we go, well, I want to make sure this looks polished and this looks pretty, and we're just going to keep. But that person never gets to know you. And so you want to put your best foot forward, but also do that with the mindset of, I want you to know me. I want to know you. And as that friendship grows and maybe moves into dating, then you start having those conversations out of a deep, deep friendship. I'm going to repeat this again. Josh has said it before. If you share something with your significant other, something that you did in the past, something you've repented for, and all that, and they still can't forgive you or they can't get past it, it's not worth your time. And it's not that that person isn't worth your time, but the relationship is not going to be healthy. There has to be forgiveness and the ability for someone to see you for who you are now. I had to share some tough things with Josh. And I was someone who I wouldn't recommend doing this way. I kind of knew I liked him, and we were in the spot where I was like, man, like, I could marry this guy. And it was kind of before we made things official, and I just sort of told him, I was like, you need to know some things about me, because I don't want to go much further until you know, because if it's going to be a deal breaker, I can't keep going. And so I, probably earlier than I should have, was very honest with Josh.
It was that, but okay.
I was really honest with him. It was really early on in the relationship. And he, handled it like a champ. Like, he told me, he goes, I never, ever would have thought that of you, and I am amazed and impressed at the woman that you are now. And so just make sure that you don't allow someone to hold your past against you as you move forward. Toxicity is a killer in relationships today, and a lot of the things that we see relationships break down in is there's things in the past from before and during, but before their relationship even started, that erode at the current relationship, and someone can't let go of something from the past. There's a massive unwillingness to have tough conversations and to come to terms with the results, whether they're good or bad. The man here is saying to us he was telling her, this is what I never did, and this is what I wish I'd done. This has to be a common commitment to each other and to work through the process together. So we have to be willing, you have to have enough relationship with people, with that person, to say, hey, I know this might not be the most fun conversation. I'm not even saying you have to be happy about it, but we have to be willing to walk through it together and process it. Give each other space and time. Sometimes there are things that are shared that might take you aback, and you might need to say, hey, I need to process this. And it's okay to take a step back. And if you're the person sharing, don't immediately get offended. Go, okay, and let them process. Give them space to let that sink in and to deal with it. Because people will deal with conflict different ways, and you have to be able to give each other space on that. Now, obviously, you have issues if it becomes this thing of, well, I can't let go of it, or I don't want to talk to you anymore. That, obviously, you have other issues. But make sure you give each other the space and the time to process what's been shared, and then to come back together and say, okay, where do we go from here? And each of you will have to make a decision. Hey, this information, am I still in this? Am I willing to let it go and move forward? And if you're not, obviously the relationship needs to end. Does that make sense? You can imagine Solomon with his great collection of women, no conversation at all. Did you talk about the cultural side of that? Oh, yeah. Okay, I thought you did. It was just very brief. He had lots of wives. Because back in the day, that was what they did, was they had lots of women, lots of wives. And what he's writing here in hindsight is he's saying, I've been stupid. And he's willing to tell her, this is what happened. And what are we going to do about it? So. Yeah.
So now let's see her response in verse 15. So in chapter 2, verses, 16 and 17, this is what it says. In 16 and 17, she says, my beloved is mine and I am his. He browses among the lilies until the day breaks and the shadows flee. Turn, my beloved, and be like a gazelle. So perfect, right? Or like a young stag on the rugged hills. Okay. If you were trying to get a girl to like you, or girls, if you're trying to woo a guy, all you got to do is just call him a young stag and a gazelle. It's going to work every time. And guys, all you got to do is say, hey, you're pretty, and you remind me of a horse, and see how that turns out. I'm joking. You will catch hands 100% of the time. So check this out. Shh. So what do we know from these couple of verses? Shh. I know there's a lot of comments after. It's like a lot of information. Anyway, so what do you know from after this? Well, we know that good communication actually intensifies feelings. That's a good thing, right? She says that these words are for of the bride and basically towards Solomon. And she's basically saying, hey, you are like a shepherd, right? You love me, you respect me. All of that is growing within her as well. And she's becoming more and more infatuated with him because of how he communicates and he loves her. Guys, let me tell you, if you are not willing to communicate with the girl that you like, the girl that you date, the girl that you eventually marry, you will not have her seeing you in a certain way. How many guys, you want your wife, you want your girlfriend to like you? You want them to think of you as positive. Please raise your hands, every single one of you, right? Then you have to communicate well, right? How does she respond to these feelings? Well, basically, what she's saying is, you should come with me tonight. Everybody say, ooh. Listen. She's inviting him to be with her in her bed in the chamber at night. Yep. We're going there, and wait till next week. Check this out though. Shh. I know a lot of you guys, the reason why you're kind of like, ugh, is because for so long, and it's still, outside of marriage, it still is, okay? But for so long, we just assume that sex under any circumstance is always bad. And yes, I said it. We think that, like, okay, physical intimacy is going to be weird no matter what in every single circumstance, and it should be avoided at all costs. But the natural progression of how God created us was that when you have feelings that have been cultivated in a correct way, the only progression is physical intimacy, right? So it is perfectly natural for you to have feelings, okay? For you to be attracted physically to somebody else. What it's not okay is to act on them. We've talked about it before. He talks about it earlier, and he says, hey, we need to catch the foxes. We need to have good communication. We need to do this. He literally rejected her. Remember a couple like in the last chapter? She was like, hey, you're fine, and I really want you, like, now. And he's like, no, not yet. So don't hear this and be like, well, I guess it's okay then. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying that it's obviously reserved for marriage, but the connection that's formed is completely natural. The deep connection through communication is not uncommon, it's not wrong, but it's extremely intense, and it has to be guarded. Everybody say, it's intense. It's got to be guarded. Do you guys remember talking about the fireplace? I'm going to talk about it again. The fireplace as an illustration of what physical intimacy, what sex looks like in a relationship. Yeah, I said it. So, if you have, hey, we all should be old enough to at least hear it, and then you can go home and laugh about it. And then some of you guys are old enough that you should be really talking about this and seeing this in its true perspective, because you're just hearing it from your friends anyway. So check this out. So if sex and intimacy, physical attraction, all of this stuff is a fireplace, that can be a good thing, right? Fireplaces can be a good thing. Who has a fireplace? Anybody? Fireplaces are great, right? Do you like having a fireplace? Yeah. Do you feel comfortable when you light your fire in your fireplace? For sure, absolutely, right? Anybody, if you have a fireplace, would you feel uncomfortable if a fire was outside of your fireplace? Right? House fires, engaging in all of this stuff before marriage, is destructive and can burn an entire relationship to the ground. And like I said before, I think it's so important to know the structure of a house, right? If you build a fireplace and your whole house goes down, do you know what's staying in the foundation? The fireplace. I can't tell you how many times, and maybe I'm not going to ask you to raise your hand, but I'm sure you have friends, I know I did, who built entire relationships off of physical attraction, who had crossed a line that they never wanted to cross too early, who had had sex and regretted it or felt bad about it, but it just continued to progress and continue to progress until all you had left in the relationship was the physical attraction or the memory of what you did in the past. And then you get into a spot, I have to stay with this person because they're who I spent this time with. They're who I did this with. And then all you have is this terrible bond that says, well, I have to be with them because this happened. Let me tell you, that's no way to live your life. And that's no way to live in a relationship. Now, that's not to say that it won't be hard to break that and heal from that. Just like in the same way, I'm going to keep the analogy going. If a fire burns a house down, all you have left is the fireplace. Guess what? You can rebuild the house again. It takes time and it takes intentionality. But it is important that we know that, hey man, good communication and doing things the right way, doing things God's way is actually going to lead you to want to be physically attracted to that person. But it's all in the timing in which we talk about it. Do we understand this? I don't want anybody going home and be like, Pastor Josh said that it's okay and I can do this right now because God created it, okay? I will smack you. No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
I will.
I'm joking. But it is important that they know that, right? Absolutely. All right, so let's go on to chapter 3. Hey, guys, we're in chapter 3. Let's go. Come on.
Okay. So we're going to read chapter 3, verses 1 through 4. And it says, all night long on my bed, I looked for the one my heart loves. I looked for him, but I did not find him. I will get up now and go about the city. Through its streets and squares, I will search for the one my heart loves. So I looked for him, but I did not find him. The watchmen found me as they made their rounds in the city. Have you seen the one my heart loves? Scarcely had I passed them when I found the one my heart loves. And I held him, and I would not let him go till I brought him to my mother's house, to the room of the one who conceived me. So we see this girl here, and she's like crazy, right? Like kind of a little bit obsessive almost. But she's so in love with him that she literally gets up and goes and searches around the town to go find him. And she finally finds him. And she brings him to her mother. Okay, we'll get to that in a second. I remember I was in college, and I have kind of a funny story to tell you. And I was in college, I was going through a rough season, and this guy approached me at a chapel service, and he was like, you're really cool. You want to meet my friends? And I'm not going to lie, guys. I was so lonely. I had a bunch of friends stab me in the back, and I was at this point just desperate for community of any kind. And I wasn't like even looking at him. I was not attracted to him. I was not like, I was just like, someone is talking to me, and I have a friend for a second. And so I said, sure. And at the time, GCU had a gym. They still have a gym, but a gym on campus, and he asked if I wanted to go work out with him. Come to find out, he was like an army chaplain, and I think he wrestled or something like that. Anyways,
his name. What was his name? I will find him.
I'm not going to give his name because he's actually running for an office now. I just found this out. So I'm not going to give his real name. But he literally introduced himself to me as, my name is Crazy Legs, and that is my wrestling name. Okay, I'm telling you, I was desperate. So anyways, long story short, I worked out with this guy twice. My dad came down to watch a GCU basketball game, and he tried to meet him. Not once had I expressed interest in him, but at one point, I was trying to kind of like end the relationship. I was like, hey, I'm not really interested in like dating right now. And he goes, I just know you're the one for me. God told me at chapel. And I was like, oh, heck no. And I was like, yeah, I'll let you know. Oh, and he said, I know when you're ready, you'll come to me. And I was like, no, this is not happening. Anyways.
Run.
So literally, I was like, no, I gotta go. And I literally ran to my room, and I never talked to him again. The funny thing is next week, he had a girlfriend. Is that not the weirdest thing? So as a girl, from the outside, I'm not telling you as men or as guys that you are this way. I'm just saying it looks like from the outside that you guys are really comfortable going from relationship to relationship, whether it was good or bad, and you can just go from girl to girl, and it seems like there's no consequence. And I'm not saying this is how it is. I'm saying this is what it appears to be on the surface from a girl's perspective. Because from a girl's perspective, there's a deep fear of being alone, the idea of not having someone. We were designed to be pursued. We were designed to be wanted. That's natural and normal. But it feels like sometimes that we look around and go, man, like, I really like that guy. And he just has a new girl every week. Like, am I not good enough? Honestly, you wouldn't want him anyways. You don't want someone who's bouncing around. You want someone who's going to be committed, right? But on the outside, there's that longing of, like, why haven't you picked me? I'm afraid of being alone. And I get that. I was there for, like, most of my teenage years and definitely most of my 20s until I met Josh. So, but there's this dynamic, and I'm not, again, guys, I'm not saying that's how it is, but I can tell you from a girl's perspective, it's what it feels like sometimes.
Yeah, you can keep going.
Okay. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. So anyways, she takes him to meet his mother, or to meet her mother, I'm sorry, and expedites the wedding so that she can have him and see what he does. Okay? So we're going to pick this up in verse 5. And it says, "Daughters of Jerusalem, I charge you by the gazelles and by the does of the field.
That's amazing.
Do not arouse or awaken love until it so desires." So we have this next concept here where we have to extend our communications to once again address our boundaries, right? So here she is, she's like, okay, meet my mom so she can say yes. Or like today we'd be like, meet my dad, hope he doesn't shoot you, kind of a thing. And so that he can like you, make sure you look the right way. Don't worry, he'll bring the shotgun out, but he's just trying to scare you. And he repeats this again in verse 7 about her having normal and good feelings. And I'm going to, right, this chapter, right? Verse 7 says, "Look, it is Solomon's carriage escorted by 60 warriors, the noblest of..."
No, from chapter 1.
Oh, from chapter 1. I'm sorry. That's what I asked you. It says, "Tell me, you whom I love, where you graze your flock and where you rest your sheep at midday. Why should I be like a veiled woman beside the flocks of your friends?" Again, he's saying, that's really great. I love that you feel that way. Makes me feel good, right? Right? It would make you feel good as a guy. Yeah. But he's saying we have to wait for the proper time. Girls, you want to find a guy who's going to respect that. It's both of your jobs to keep each other in purity. But girls, you want someone who's going to, like, what's the word? Not guard. I'm looking for an adjective. Like, be very, very, very intent upon that. Like, monstrously so. I cannot pull the word that I'm trying to think of, but, like, he's fiercely, fiercely guarding your purity the same way he guards his own. It's natural to want him, especially if he's protecting you. You want someone you can bring home, and that's great. But remember, you want him to respect you behind closed doors the same way he would in front of your dad. Guys, find the girl that's willing to have conversations and to make you feel more and more like you are the stuff, is what Josh wrote in the notes for me to say. Like you are the stuff. That ego that builds you up can cause you to fall and bring your girl down with you. Yeah. So make sure you guys are equally protecting each other, but men, protect the women in your life.
Yeah.
And especially in relationships.
It's good. We're closing up, so I promise we're almost done. You guys want a practical tip? Get your notepads, get your pens, get your notes. Let me see it. Okay? Yeah, make a mental note if you need to. So check this out. There's this concept that my youth pastor taught me because he wrote this thing that I will now teach you. Okay? 3 words. It is the 1 kiss rule. Or you could be super hardcore like me and Macy. We didn't kiss until our wedding day. Don't do that. It was really, no, it was not fun. Anyway, sorry, I was just thinking about my kiss. Yeah, anyway, So check this out. One kiss rule, okay? That is this. Guys, girls, you get one kiss when you don't see each other anymore. Guys, if you drop a girl off, if you drive, or when you drive, or maybe you have a bike, I don't know. You can ride on the handlebars. Check this out. You get one kiss, and then you walk away. And you get back in your car, you get back on your bike, you do whatever you walk away, you do whatever you need to do. Or I'm going to extend it to this. Go to class. I have been on your high school campuses. Y'all are gross. Y'all make out like you will never see each other again. And it is gross. I'm just saying. Listen. Shh. So now that we have that ground rule, okay? If you are on a date, you get one kiss, and then you walk away. You don't go inside. You definitely don't lay down. I'm just going to take a quick nap. No, you're not. I know you. Imagine this every time in this one kiss rule. If your parents are both there and they're cheering you on for that one kiss. Yeah! One kiss. I promise you'll only want to kiss once, if that, okay? And if you need me, just text me or Macy and we'll come cheer you guys. It'll be great. Listen. I think we have to place ourselves in Solomon's shoes, right? Guys, you have to place yourself there. But we all do. We all take, like what Macy said, we all protect this thing together, right? This woman is absolutely infatuated with him in every single way and has every chance and is looking for every opportunity to take advantage of it, right? Looking for every opportunity to anyway. But what he chooses, he takes the initiative. And he says, I am going to remain pure, and I'm going to make sure that you remain pure as well, and we are going to wait until our wedding night. We are not doing anything right now. Do not awaken love until it... Exactly. If the worship team would go ahead, and you guys can just use this door here. That way you're not going around and it's long and all that stuff. Shh. Listen, the point of this message, the reason why I had Macy share, did you guys like having Macy share a little bit too? Yeah. We're going to do it in a couple of weeks again, and I'm really excited about it. But the reason why we tackle this thing of communication is because there is power in good communication. Just like there's power in every single aspect of relationships that we've been talking about, right? If you can be attracted to somebody for the right reasons, if you can date with a lot of integrity, if you can court somebody and start to be really intentional with the way that you spend your time with them, and then if you can communicate well, all of these things will lead to a good, healthy relationship, right? It's important to build on each of these things. You don't want to jump to trying to communicate with somebody who you're not even attracted to. You don't want to try to court somebody that you can't stand, right? You cannot skip these things, but you always have to work on them. Hopefully not the attraction. Hopefully you find somebody that you're attracted to and you stay attracted to them, okay? But check this out. It's a good feeling to see the progression. And I know it can get weird. And guess what? I'm going to just say it. Next week is the talk. Go ahead. Gulp. Shh. We're not, hey, listen. It's not going to be like science class, I promise. You're like, please, I don't want to do this. But we're going to talk about intimacy, physical intimacy, in a way that God designed it and in a way that is beneficial for you as you begin to build your relationships, okay? The reason I say it is because it all progresses. And there's nothing in this relationship so far that we see that is happening outside of God's plan for it, right? Am I wrong in that? Is anybody reading or seeing or hearing us say anything that God is not intentional with designing? It's good to feel really like lovey-dovey with somebody, especially when it's a good time, okay? If some of y'all walk away engaged after this as a sophomore or junior in high school, I will talk to you. No, I'm joking. They will talk to you. You got to take time. I realize some of this is years away, right? But if you can grab some of this stuff, if you can hold on to it, if you can continue to work on it throughout your entire relationship, I promise you'll be in a good spot. But you have to do your part. Like I've said throughout this entire time, these things move in such a way. But you have to do your part so that you won't awaken love until the right time. So that you won't awaken these feelings. Or you won't awaken physical intimacy until the time in which God has designed it in marriage. We understand? Does it make sense? Let's go ahead and go to the Lord in prayer tonight. And I didn't mention this, but I'll mention it now because better late than never, right? Maybe you're sitting here and you're like, dude, relationships mean nothing to me and I don't even care. Let me tell you that these are all principles that you can start applying in your friendships. There are things within this, right? Now, obviously, it's going to be in relationships, but there are things in this that you can start to apply into your friendships, into your interactions with other people, into the way that you talk with them, and the way that you are intentional with being with them, right? And so with every head bowed and every eye closed, very simply, if you say, man, my communication has been off, or I've put my faith into something, into a relationship or into a friendship that has let me down, and I want to see restoration come out of that. I want to see my situation restored. Maybe you're in a spot and you've heard us talk about some of this stuff, and you maybe are sitting here and you're like, hey, I've crossed the line already. Let me tell you, there used to be a time where as soon as that, it was like, well, you're damaged goods, and they'd come up with all these really toxic illustrations. The principle's still the same, but the illustrations was like, well, you'll never be the same, or you'll never receive healing. Or let me tell you, that's a lie from the pit of hell. Jesus wants to restore whatever has been broken in your life, in terms of relationships, in terms of friendships. Maybe you've had somebody in the past that has hurt you in that way. But tonight, very simply, if you would say, my communication is just out of whack. I'm not communicating well. People are not communicating with me. Maybe you need strength and boldness to have conversations, to start creating good communication. If that's you tonight, every head bowed and every eye closed, would you just please raise your hand? You say, man, I need help with communication. I need help in my relationships and my friendships, and I want that to continue. You know, thank you for your hands. I appreciate that. I get that this message isn't a clear gospel presentation, but I hope that through worship and through the time that we have in the rest of this service, and even through here, you're understanding how much God actually cares about you, how much that God actually loves you. And so tonight, if you have never experienced that, if you have never experienced the love of God in a real tangible way, but you're open to what the Lord would have, man, I believe that God wants to do something tonight. And so if you would like to start a relationship or even just get more information, say, man, I'm curious about this thing. If you would raise your hand, I don't want to ever step away from this moment and not give that opportunity for you to have an encounter and start a relationship with Jesus. If you've never done that before and you want to do that tonight, thank you. Thank you, Jesus. Lord Jesus, we just thank you so much for who you are. Lord, we thank you that you are